intentionally connected with what Anna spoke about last week. If you weren't here last week, I highly encourage you to have a look at the video of that message. I was very moved. I myself listened to it. I was downstairs in the crash looking after the children, so I caught up with it later on YouTube. If you search for FFWP Hugh Bromley in YouTube, you'll find our YouTube channel, and you can catch up with testimonies and sermons there. And indeed, Anna's sermon from last week is there. So if you didn't get a chance to hear it or watch it, I really encourage you to do that. So last week, Anna was speaking about grieving, and this week I want to speak about this fear of death. It's not a popular topic to talk about, I suppose. Not a very not very comfortable, perhaps. It's also a little bit taboo in our culture, I think. Still a little bit, death and dying. It's very much sanitized. It's very much separate from our ordinary human life. That what happens when I pass away, or who takes care of the body, what happens to it, and all those kinds of things. Unless one has gone through that experience of maybe having a loved one pass away, or a close friend pass away, then we don't know. And I think it's still something which is a little bit that we need to address a bit more. In some cultures, it's more taboo than others, I suppose. I once watched a Japanese film, very interesting Japanese film about the people who dress the dead bodies in preparation for their funeral, and somehow it's a profession which is looked down upon traditionally in Japanese culture. But it was a very beautiful film, actually valuing it. And, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing that I want to reflect on today, particularly this idea of fear, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not that bothered about death. I'll be very frank with you, very honest with you. My daughter Bronwyn, she's my third child. A year or two ago, she told me, "Papa, I want to die." Why? Because I want to see what the spirit world is like. Well, hang about, don't die yet. I explained to her, this life is there for living. Live it, and then you'll be ready to go to the spirit world. You'll get there eventually. Don't worry. But she obviously has quite a comfortable. She's comfortable talking about death and thinking about it. Sometimes I'm a bit worried. It's a bit too morbid. Anyway, I'm not too worried for the time being. But I recognise that there are actually many fears associated with death and dying. I suppose the only one real fear I might have is the pain experience with the process of dying. Whether I don't know. We none of us know when that day might come. Maybe today could be our final day, or maybe we could have many decades ahead of us. We don't know. Will I suffer from an illness over an extended period of time and suffer that way? Maybe that is something that some of us are perhaps a little bit worried about. All of us who are sitting here in this room, who are physically present, we've never experienced the pain that has literally killed us. So we've all experienced some pain in our lives, but we don't know. We just don't know. And I don't like to think about it, but I want to talk about it because I want to address it and acknowledge it. For some of us, that's a real fear. It might be something we're bothered about. For some of us, the fear might be uncertainty about what happens next. Really, what happens next? And even for a community of faith who may hold certain beliefs or convictions about God, about an afterlife, still, unless we have been gifted with spiritual sensitivity, that we can perceive the spiritual reality, unless we've been gifted with those with those senses and perceptivity? We don't know. I'm just taking other people's word for it. I'm just believing in that. So honestly, I don't know. I'm one of those people who honestly can't tell you from personal experience. The only kind of spiritual experiences that I have are mainly in my dreams or maybe vague sensitivities for a feeling in a room, but nothing more clear than that, really. I think we should all strive to become more spiritually aware, that as we become people who are in harmony with God and more able to love, we become more sensitive. But for a lot of us, I think we aren't so sensitive to it. And because of that uncertainty, there's an element of doubt there, an element of fear, because we don't know what happens next. You know, it's not just going to the spirit world where people feel like that. Some people feel that similar level of anxiety about just going to a new place altogether. I've never been to this building before. I'm a bit nervous about going inside. I don't know what to expect. That's quite a normal emotional response that some of us may be experiencing. Maybe for some of us, actually it's the opposite is true. We are spiritually sensitive. We do know what the spirit world is like, and actually we're aware of what a scary place it can be. And I suppose the entertainment industry tries to make a lot of money out of that aspect of the ghoulish side of the spiritual reality. That if we are sensitive and we have had those kinds of experiences, we know that while there is a good part in the spirit world, and there are good spirits, there's also a part which is not so good. And let's call it what it is. It's evil. There is evil in the spirit world, and there are evil spiritual influences, and that might make us afraid. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to address it. Some people might feel uncomfortable talking about it because it might attract it, so just don't talk about it in the first place. Well, as bonus of China book, I think we have some authority over the spirits, don't you? Every time I come home, every time, say a little prayer before I put the key in the door. It's a gentle way of saying, go away. So all the unwanted spirits I've picked up during the day, go back to where you came from. You're not welcome in my house. You could do that. I know some people, I think some people have little vase. They tell all the spirits to jump into the vase. Do you know people who do that? I don't think it's that crazy. Just tell them to jump in the vase and put the lid on top. And then take the vase to some place of pilgrimage, maybe somewhere like Chongqing, and then open the vase and let them all out there. We can tell them what to do. We have that authority as owners of China because it comes from love. It comes from a place of wanting to love the spirits, that we want to take care of them. And sometimes, look, we have to be honest and say, look, I can't take care of you in my house. Just go back to where you came from and you'll be better off there. But I want to acknowledge the fact that some of us may be afraid of that. Maybe for some of us the fear is that we know what the spirit world's like. We're fairly comfortable with good spirit world, bad spirit world, but I'm afraid that I might be one of those evil spirits one day. That my soul is so polluted and so corrupt. I don't want to die because I want to have a chance to fix my broken self. I don't want to contribute to the spiritual burden. That might be the fear. Which is a very legitimate fear, that we want to be people who ascend victoriously, who ascend with love and with confidence. That might be our uncertainty, and I want to address that. I want to reflect on it. And thinking about these fears, there was one more fear I could think of. There may be more, but there was one more. And actually, it wasn't the fear of death itself. Maybe it was the fear of life. Yeah, some folks just are afraid of living. Living is the hard part. And it's actually quite tempting to just abandon this project and return home prematurely, perhaps. Many of us may have different experiences, different angles approaching this, but I wanted to talk about it. And I wanted to talk about it in quite a broad way. I'm going to look at 4 different traditions, religious traditions here. We're going to look at some scripture from the Jain community, from the Baha'i community, from the Hindu tradition, and also from our own unificationist tradition, looking at the words of Father Moon. So first of all, I want to share with you a quotation from a Jain monk. And the name of this Jain monk, at the bottom you'll see, is, I don't know how to pronounce this properly, Pujyapada. And this is from his collection of, quite a short collection of words and phrases. Samadhis Hataka. Again, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that, but I found these words quite helpful. What did he say? He said, one who identifies himself with his soul regards bodily transmigration of his soul at death fearlessly, like changing one cloth for another. So he's addressing this fear. And he's saying we can approach death fearlessly. How? How can we approach death fearlessly? How can we approach the transmigration of the soul? I like that phrase. Transmigration of the soul. That the soul is simply going from one place to another. It's like he says, like changing one cloth for another. This body that we have doesn't define who we are. It's just clothes which we put on the soul. And when the clothes get old and tired, you donate them to a charity shop or something like that. And you get rid of them, and then the body, which is clothed by the clothes, lives on. Likewise, when this physical body becomes, tired and worn out, you then return it to be recycled in the universe, and then the soul moves on to another place. How does he approach this fearlessly? He says, one who identifies himself with his soul. It's about identity. Who am I? And there are many things which define us. Yeah. Sorry, Stephen, for picking on you, but we are related, are we not? And so we share the same family name. That's one aspect of identifying ourselves. But in one very important, crucial way, we differ in our identities. You drew with Arsenal yesterday, and we're playing Leeds today. My brother Stephen is a Man United fan, and I'm a Newcastle fan. And these define our identities in very emotional ways. Does it not? Just a bit. Just a bit. Well, certainly when I know that when my team performs well on a weekend, my moods are lifted. And when we get relegated from the Premier League, my moods, my spirits go down a bit. This is a part of our identity. We have many different identities, don't we? Some of us may be defined by our the nation in which we were born, or the language that we speak, or the religion even that we practice. Because even our religion really doesn't define who we are. Yeah, it's a set of cultural practices. And scriptures and ideas, and you can maybe see it as a school or a vehicle, but is that really who we fundamentally are? I'm not saying that all those different aspects of our identity are unimportant. They are important. But what's the most important? What's the most important part of our identity? Here, this Jain monk is saying that he who identifies himself with his soul is able to transmigrate fearlessly, recognizing that who I am a spiritual being. This is the core of my identity. And if God is a spiritual being, that means we have something in common. That if the universe has a spiritual dimension, it means there's a part of me that I am a spirit, I am a soul, and I'm connected with that spiritual reality. That defines me in a great and powerful way. It affects how we behave. It can impact us in our decision making in terms of our career, in terms of our lifestyle choices. What do we do on a daily basis can be impacted when we reflect on my spirituality. Do I do certain things or pick up certain habits when I'm aware of my spirituality? I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the words of C.S. Lewis. You don't have a spirit. You are a spirit with a body. Okay? This is who we are. This is what our identity is. And when we are comfortable with our identity, secure in that identity, knowing that I'm a spiritual being, this monk is saying we can approach this transmigration of the soul fearlessly. On this theme of transmigration, and exploring this idea a bit more, I want to look at some words from the Baha'i tradition which reflect on the different stages of life, which again, many of us will be familiar with, but I really like these words and I want to reflect on them. This is from the gleanings from the writings of Baha'i. The world beyond is as different from this world, is as different from this world as this world is different from that of the child while still in the womb of its mother. When the soul attains the presence of God, it will assume the form that best befits its immortality and is worthy of its celestial habitation. Okay, let's look at the first sentence there. So, the world beyond, the spiritual afterlife, is as different from this world as this world is different from that of the child while still in the womb of its mother. Try to imagine being a child in the womb of your mother. Okay? As your senses are developing, you do have eyes and they can see, but what can they see? It's a very dark, almost black and red kind of environment. That's all you see. You just see the amniotic fluid around you and the blood vessels. What can you hear? You can't really hear much either. You have ears, but they can't really hear because all the sounds are muffled. In fact, the most outstanding sound that you can hear is. Yeah, have you ever been to one of those ultrasound scans where they put that Doppler machine and it listens to what's going on? That's the sound of all the blood rushing through the blood vessels. Because you're, as a baby in the womb, you're surrounded by that sound as blood vessels are flowing blood around you. Which is why newborn babies love the sound of shh, because it reminds them of being nicely in the womb. So you can hear, you can see, but it's not as vivid as what happens outside. You can't imagine the complexity of colours and textures and sounds that you can expect outside. Even touch. All that the baby can touch is very liquid, very soft and bouncy, and then you come out into the cold air, and there are hard, cold surfaces, and you just want to scream. That's what babies do when they're born, don't they? And they're blinded by these bright lights, which are so colourful, and all these loud, unfamiliar sounds. Being a baby is so hard. Can you imagine? It's just an assault on the senses. And then there's all these smells that you've never smelled before. You never really smelled before because your lungs were just full of fluid until they all kind of came out when you were born. So now you're smelling things for the first time. It's all really weird, especially if your parents are wearing weird aftershave or stuff like that. Poor babies. No wonder they're so grumpy for the first few months of their life. They're just trying to figure the world out. It's a traumatic experience. You know, you've been squeezed through this tunnel of light. There's light at the end of this tunnel. You're not really sure if you want to go there or not because you're being squeezed and it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's a traumatic experience, and yet it's a necessary experience. Now, my wife and I, we didn't have that experience because we're both C-section babies. We were just ripped out, which is another form of trauma, I'm sure. But whatever way that the baby is born, it's a traumatic change. But do we regret that change? Was it? Do we want to go back? No. We recognise that actually this world's not so bad. You know, once you get to the age of about 2 or 3, you realise, hey, I can talk, I can walk, I can do stuff. This life isn't so bad. And then you become rambunctious and naughty, and you try to take over the world. And, but yeah, you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back. So, likewise, The next world, we struggle to perceive it. We might have glimpses of it. We might have the spiritual senses which can capture small glimpses. But when we go there, it will be even more real. Can you imagine that? A reality which is more real than this reality that we've experienced. Of course we can't imagine it. We can only imagine what we've experienced. We can only draw on those references. So in that sense, I am quite excited. I am looking forward to it. Like my daughter Bronwyn, I'm looking forward to dying because I want to find out what the spirit world's like. I'm not in any rush. Not today, at least. Also, if you think about it, in the womb, you have all those organs. They are being prepared. But what is nourishing you is this umbilical cord, which is attached to a placenta. And actually, with one of my children, the placenta wasn't working so properly. And so the doctors were a little bit concerned about how the pregnancy was going. Thankfully, in the end, the baby was born fine. But when they looked at the placenta, they thought, wow, that's a really dodgy placenta. You're lucky that nothing happened earlier. But then what do you do? Do you throw away the baby and keep the placenta? No, you keep the baby and you throw away the placenta. Some people eat the placenta. I haven't, but some people do. Although there's some people keep the umbilical cord to collect stem cells from them. It's quite interesting. I want to make an analogy there with our physical bodies. This physical body, eventually we discard it. It serves its purpose. And of course, if the physical body has any limitations, it affects the growth of the spirit, inevitably. Just like a dodgy placenta would affect the growth of the child. So if the body has limitations, it limits the growth of the spirit. And that's a reality I want to address and be aware of, because there are people that we know and love who have limitations in their lives which prevent them from growing in their hearts as much as they could, as much as God wants them to. But nevertheless, they can still grow to some extent. The second half of this quotation says, when the soul attains the presence of God, it will assume the form that best befits immortality and is worthy of its celestial habitation. It's a place where we live. Habitation is a place where we live. Where do we choose to live? The place that best fits me, especially when I've attained the presence of God. So if I've got God in my life, and I'm cool with God, I'm one with God, God walks with me, God walks and works with me, and we talk with each other, and we live for each other, then I live probably very close to God in the spirit. If God had a home, I don't believe he does, but if God had a home in the spirit world, I'd live very close to that if I was so close with God. But if I didn't get along with God, then probably I would live further away. And actually human beings do that too. Sometimes family members, they fall out, and so they end up living quite far apart. Or even if they do live close to each other, they never visit each other. Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty similar in the spirit world. If we don't have that proximity, relational proximity with God, then we choose to live in a place which is not so close. But if we have attained that, we assume a form that best befits immortality. And what would best befit someone who's one with God? A place which is close with God. One with God. That's something to look forward to, I think. To be one in communion with God in the spirit world where love is the environment. That is the air that we breathe. That's a very hopeful, optimistic perspective. The next scripture I want to share with you is from the Hindu tradition. It's over 2 slides. It has the same idea repeated 3 times, but expanded in different ways. And it's to do with the preparations for that transmigration. So as a man, or indeed woman, passes from dream to wakefulness, so does he pass from this life to the next. When a man man is about to die, the subtle body, mounted by the intelligent self, groans, as a heavily laden cart groans under its burden. When his body becomes thin through old age or disease, the dying man separates himself from his limbs, even as a mango or a fig or a banyan fruit separates itself from its stalk. And by the same way that he came, he hastens to his new abode, and there assumes another body in which to begin a new life. The same idea repeated 3 times with different metaphors, but each metaphor I think is really interesting. The first metaphor is comparing the transmigration process of ascension as passing from dream to wakefulness, waking up from a dream. Now I find that interesting because usually, as people who are alive, we associate dreams with connecting with the spiritual reality. But what this tradition is informing us is that actually the dream is this life, and the wakefulness is the next life. In the dream, things are hazy, things are fuzzy, things aren't clear. And when we wake up, things become more clear. So that's something to look forward to. Clarity in the next life. The next metaphor. When a man is about to die, this subtle body, mounted by the intelligent self, groans. Yeah, so if you've ever seen someone dying or very grievously ill, they groan. It's a normal phenomenon. But what is the comparison? As a heavily laden cart groans under its burden. Now, a heavily laden cart is a good thing because it's full of stuff, good stuff. It's groaning under the weight of all these things. If it wasn't groaning under weight, it means that there's nothing on the cart. There's nothing there. So it's groaning because of all that weight. So, the groaning here is associated with, you've got a lot to take with you. You've got a lot of love, a lot of experience, a lot of treasures in your heart. That's what's weighing you. And so you groan. Interesting idea. And then the third one, I like, because first of all, because I like mangoes, but it compares this body which becomes thin through old age or disease, and then this dying man separates from his limbs as a mango or a fig or a banyan fruit. A banyan is like a fig, which separates itself from its stalk. So when you see a fruit which is connected to its plant, when it's unripe, usually it's quite firm. It's very difficult to remove. But as the fruit ripens, it becomes much easier to remove. And we all know that fruits are best when they're ripe. They taste really good, and that's when the seed is ready to be planted. And so when it's ready, then it just falls off the tree very easily. So likewise, ideally, we should all be ready to just plop off the tree of life, and our juicy, tasty fruit of our soul, and then migrate into the spirit world. And this third idea has this extra little bit. By the same way that he came, he hastens to his new abode. And I drew reference to this in the idea of being born. We are born by passing through a tunnel of light. And many people who have had near-death experiences also refer to a tunnel of light. So it's almost like there's a birth through a canal, through a tunnel which guides us from one reality to another. And then we assume another body in which to begin a new life. Finally, in this journey through different religious scriptures, I'm going to conclude with some words from Father Moon. I've got 2 quotations to share with you. And the first of all was the one that Anna read to you earlier. I'll just repeat it to you very quickly here. On which day is God happy? The day of physical birth, or the day when we were born as God's son or daughter to live and love in the infinite world? Why am I saying this? Unless you are liberated from the fear of death, you cannot establish a relationship with God. I'll be honest with you, I would have thought the reverse logic was true. That unless you have a relationship with God, you can't be liberated from the fear of death. And yet he says it this way around. Fascinating. It's almost as if, like, this fear of death, or whatever the fear might be, it gets in the way from the relationship with God. And Father Moon is saying, if you want to be free and one with God, you have to liberate yourself from this fear. And he's encouraging us by saying, it's the most important day of your life. Greater than your birthday. He even, in other speeches, he refers to how it's even greater than when when a new bride is entering her bridegroom's home for the first time. And that's quite a graphic image, if you can connect with that metaphor. Because that's when they, usually in most traditional cultures, that's when they consummate their relationship. And that's when there's an explosive transformation, whereby one old life as a single person ends, and a new life as a couple begins. It's ecstatic, it's explosive, it's completely transforming. And that's how Father Moon refers to this experience of death. That it's something ecstatic, something really exciting. It's a day that we should celebrate even more than our birthday. So rather than something to fear, it should be something we really look forward to, really anticipate. And then finally, the final quotation I want to share with you, from a few years later in 1986. The spirit world is filled with the air of love. The air of love. That is why, while you live on earth, you should be installing that pipeline you will depend upon to breathe love. Know that if you have spiritual experiences and feel spiritual love, if you are able to breathe the air of love, you shall not die. He's not saying we're not going to die physically. He's saying we're going to live spiritually. And this is also what the religious great teachers, Jesus Christ, talked about. Eternal life. This is the life that he's talking about. Spiritual immortality. We gain our immortality from our ability to love, to share the true love of God, boundlessly, infinitely. And so that's why we need to take care of this life on the earth, so that we can tap into that spiritual love, that true love. You know, I do like my sermons to be able to be something that you can practice on a Monday morning. And I was really unsure, how can we put this, take the Sunday morning message into something that you can put into practice on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I really struggled, but basically, if you accept this is my advice to you. Keep calm, breathe love. Quite simple. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, I'll concede, but it's really, I think, as simple as that. If you do have a fear, or if you ever catch yourself being a little bit afraid about death or dying, just keep calm, don't worry about it, liberate yourself from that feeling, just breathe love, give love to people, try to connect and receive God's love and share love with others in your family, in your community. There's a whole bunch of sermons there as well, which I don't really want to go into, but just that simplicity, that simple idea. It really is that simple. That, we want to be a community who don't fear death, I think, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we want to be. We want to be individuals, families, and our community who don't rush into dying. That would be, rather, that's not right. But we anticipate it. We look forward to it. We celebrate it. And indeed, we have had some beautiful Songwar ceremonies in our community, have we not? Every Songwar ceremony, but the Ascension ceremony, where we remember the life of an ascended loved one, always a beautiful testimony, not only to the person, but to our community's culture. And that's something I just want to celebrate. I want to acknowledge that, and to appreciate that, and to ask us to continue perpetuating that. Do you have your songwar planned out already? Do you know which songs you want to be sung? I think, my brother and I, we talked about it sometimes, and I think, do you still want the Viking burial?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to do that before the rigor mortis sets in, right?
Something along those lines.
Let's I don't know if, yeah, we'll see. But let's not be uncomfortable thinking about these kinds of things. Let's be thinking, what kind of glorious songwriter do I want to have to really testify to God, to testify to true parents, to testify to my family and my community? I want it to be a really joyful experience whereby, people can just feel love through it. Yes, of course, it's sad when we lose loved ones. Yes, of course, we shed tears. And Anna spoke very eloquently about the process of grieving last week. But I just want us to liberate ourselves from this fear and be able to share that liberation with others as well. So if we know anyone who is a bit afraid, to comfort them and just tell them, keep calm, breathe. Would you like to stand and join me in a word of prayer? Good morning, dear God, our loving Heavenly Parent. We are all here blessed with life, both the spiritual life of knowing you and receiving your love and being blessed in so many ways, but also blessed with this physical life that we don't want to take for granted. And with the days that we've had so far, we've come this far. And however far it might be, maybe some of us feel that we still have some distance to go, maybe some of us feel quite pleased with the progress we've made, we still have time ahead of us. We don't know how long that time is. But whatever time we have, we want to make the most of it. We want to prepare ourselves ultimately for our return home. When we return to you, where we want to be embraced by your love and be able to receive your embrace and return the embrace by having developed hearts which are capable of loving with the same quality of love that you love us, and be able to return that love and share that love. I pray that we can cultivate this love while we're alive, and that with every moment that we have, we can not allow ourselves to be distracted by fear or blocked by fear, whether we can overcome those hurdles, that we can feel confident, we can feel calm and relaxed and secure, knowing that as long as we're breathing love, as long as we are cultivating our hearts, we know that we are preparing ourselves ultimately for our return home. If there are brothers and sisters here who have fears about this, then I pray that we can comfort each other, we can listen to each other with an understanding ear, empathetically, and be able to raise each other up so that we can all become confident and secure. And I pray that we can share that with others as well. Thank you for the love that you give to us. And we look forward to exploring the incredible spirit world that you have prepared for us, which we can't even imagine right now. One day we will go there. But right now we want to prepare ourselves by becoming people who can practice love in this realm. I want to often report this prayer on behalf of everybody here, reminding Matthew Huish, the blessed central family. Our children.